talk about the Tohono O'odham Sonoran people of northern Mexico and southern Arizona. Tohono O'odham people were called the Papago by the Spanish. The Papago meant bean eater, and it was kind of a derogatory term that the Pimas or some of the other tribes around that area referred to the Tohono O'odham people, and the Spanish interpreted that the Babawicoa, meaning eating beans, Teperi beans. And the conquistadors had heard the other Pima bands of Indians called the Tohono O'odham people by this name, and so that's what the Spanish started calling them, the Papago people. Tohono O'odham Indian Reservation of today, it's a federally recognized tribe. It's called the Tohono O'odham Nation. Tohono O'odham Nation. And it's the second largest reservation in Arizona today. It's approximately 2.8 million acres. These people identify as the descendants of the Hohokam people that at one time inhabited the Casa Grande complex. The Tohono O'odham people speak a Uto-Aztecan language. It's a dialect variant of Piman, and culturally they're similar to the Pima that live to the north. They live in a drier territory than the Pima, which makes farming more difficult and increases the reliance on wild gathered foods. They also moved seasonally because of the arid climate, and they spent the summers in a field village and the winter in a well village. Consequently, the well villages were actually at a higher elevation, and the field villages were at a lower elevation where the alluvial fan deposits were farmed, where the seasonal rain would flow and irrigate these crops. Because the floods were sometimes heavy, they planted their seeds quite deeply, and they created reservoirs and ditches and dikes to try to slow runoff waters along the flood zones so that it wouldn't destroy their crops. The family groups were a group of related villages. They were composed of several families related through the male genealogical line. Because the Tohono O'odham people had less contact with the early Spanish and settlers than the Pima, they retained more of their traditional culture. They claim that the Hohokam who left the Casa Grande ruins are their ancestors. Well, I believe they were. And Father Francisco Kino, who established a mission, a Spanish mission in Primera Alta around in the 1680s, talks a lot about these people, and he talks about he doesn't refer to them as the Hohokam, but he refers to the people of Casa Grande as being the ancestors of these people. And these people, when they went with Father Kino to show him the ruin, they went into a specific room and made offerings to their gods, or to the gods of the Hohokam, and to show their respect. And I think that there's distinctive features among their ancestral traditions that tie these two groups together. And as we know, many of the cultural groups in America over the periods of history, ancient groups, they came together, they had wars, they assimilated, they intermarried, they then the tribes divided. There was war and famine and drought. And so I think as many of these tribe relations, they were probably a separate people, that the Tohono O'odham probably lived near these people, and they probably intermarried and traded some of their traditions, and then for whatever reasons, for some of the same reasons that the Tohono O'odham moved, was because of the warring Apaches. And I think that even before that, the Uto-Aztecan language people that lived further north than Mexico, who were the ancestors of the Aztecs, it's also talked about that they moved because of the warring tribes, the Apaches, Comanches, whatever warring tribes, maybe the Navajos, that were, because of hard times, they preyed upon each other or were more predatory tribes. It forced the Aztecs to move further into Mexico. Historically, the O'odham inhabited an enormous area of land in the southwest, extending south to Sonora and north to central Arizona, just north of Phoenix, west to the Gulf of California, and east to the San Pedro River. This land base was known as Papago, and it has been home to the O'odham for thousands of years. From the early 18th century to the present, the O'odham land was occupied by foreign governments. With the independence of the Republic of Mexico, O'odham fell under Mexican rule. In 1853, through the Gadsden Purchase or Treaty of Las Massilia, O'odham land was divided almost in half between the United States and Mexico. According to the terms of the Gadsden Purchase, the United States agreed to honor all land rights of the area held by Mexican citizens. However, the demand for land for settlements escalated with the development of mining and the Transcontinental Railroad. This demand resulted in the loss of the O'odham land on both sides of the border. And so because of this, the United States side of the border, a reservation was set up for the people. All of the groups in this area, the O'odham and their other related Pima groups, are a language which derives from the Uto-Aztecan language, although each of these groups has varying dialects. So because of this, some of these people are obviously the ancestors of the Aztecs. They have ties to the Aztec. One of the things that the Tohono O'odham face is, because their nation borders, has the border of Mexico and the United States going through their land, many of their traditional cultural heritage and burial sites are being affected by the building of the border wall. And while overall they support the decision for border security, they want the United States government to find ways to preserve and protect their cultural heritage sites. And this is an important thing for these people, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And this letter here says that this is a press release. It says the Tohono O'odham Nation have inhabited the land of which is now central and southern Arizona and northern Sonora since time immemorial. The current international border was drawn through the middle of the nation's traditional lands. Today, the nation's reservation includes 75 miles of the U.S.-Mexico border, with tribal members residing on both sides of the border. As a result, the nation has been on the front line of border issues for over 160 years and takes these issues very seriously. While the nation does not support a large-scale fortified wall, it has worked closely for decades with U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and other agencies to secure the U.S. homeland. The executive order signed yesterday was done without consultation with the nation or many other border communities. As a first responder on the border, the nation invites the President to visit so that in-depth discussion can be held on the impacts of such actions. In the interim, the nation will continue to do its part to ensure the security of the U.S. border. So in other words, they're concerned about the preservation of their historical, cultural, and heritage sites that are along this border. And so I believe that's something that needs to be taken into account. I do believe that we need to have a secure border for the safety of our people, the safety of the peoples along these borders, the safety of all citizens of both countries. We need to have a secure border in order to have a country. But we also need to make sure that these heritage sites and these sites of these people are protected. They're very sacred to them, and it's what they have left of their history. On their website they say, thousands of years ago our predecessors, the Hohokam, settled along the Salt, Gila, and Santa Cruz rivers. The Hohokam were master dwellers of the desert, creating sophisticated canal systems to irrigate their crops of cotton, tobacco, corn, beans, and squash. They built vast ball courts and huge ceremonial mounds, and left behind the fine red-on-buff pottery and exquisite jewelry of stone shells and clay. Following our ancestral heritage, we became scientists of our environment. We use and continue to use meteorological principles to establish planting, harvesting, ceremonial cycles, and we develop complex water storage and delivery systems. We learn to make the best of our environment, migrating with the seasons from our homes in the valley to our cooler mountain dwellings. On our Odeg in the valleys near the washes that crisscross our land, we raise a tapestry of crops, including temporary bean, squash, melon, and sugar cane. We gather wild plants such as the saguaro fruit, cholla buds, and mesquite bean pods. We hunted for the only meat that we needed from the plentiful wildlife, including deer, rabbit, and javelina. We continue to live this proud heritage today as a 21st century Tohono O'odham nation. And then they talk about our communities, districts, and nations have a long and proud history. In 1535, New Spain, including Mexico and much of the modern-day southwest of the United States, was established. In 1687, Father Esbio Quino, a Jesuit missionary, arrives in Sonora. From then until his death in 1711, he builds missions and works with the Tohono O'odham and Pima people, introducing Christianity, wheat, livestock, fruit, and metal tools. In 1700, he establishes the San Xavier missions. In 1783, construction begins on the San Xavier mission. In 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ends the Mexican-American War, with Mexico ceding most of what is now the modern-day southwest of the United States. In 1854, the Gadsden Purchase leads to current U.S.-Mexico border, traversing O'odham lands. In 1874, San Xavier Reservation was established. In 1882, the Gila Bend Reservation was established. In 1917, the main Tohono O'odham Reservation is established. In 1937, the Tohono O'odham, then called the Papagos, adopt their first constitution. In 1970, the Tohono O'odham Utility Authority, then called the Papago Utility Authority, is created. In 1978, Florence Village is established as part of the nation. In 1979, the Skills Center, later known as the Tohono O'odham Career Center, opens. In 1983, Papago Bingo is established. In 1986, the Tohono O'odham adopt a new constitution establishing a three-branch form of government. In 1993, the Tohono O'odham Nation signs its first Indian gaming compact with the state of Arizona, and Papago Bingo becomes a Desert Diamond casino. In 2000, the Tohono O'odham Community College is chartered and begins offering classes. In 2002, Archie Hendricks Senior Skilled Nursing Facility opens. 2002, a new Desert Diamond Casino opens at I-19 and Pima Mine Road. In 2003, land for the Decedents Hohokam is purchased near Y, Arizona. In 2004, the radio station KOHN FM 91.9 starts broadcasting. In 2005, recreation centers open at 5 locations throughout the Tohono O'odham Nation. In 2007, Tohono O'odham Cultural Center and Museum opens. In 2007, the old Desert Diamond Casino is replaced by a new facility including a hotel. In 2007, Cells, the Vita Dialysis Center is dedicated. And then in 2007, the San Simon Health Center is dedicated.